often I'll have families that come to me and say, I'm not feeling it. It's just that I don't understand why I'm not feeling it. I can't get into it. And I love the idea and it's so pretty. And I really want to have this for my child, but I just not feeling it. And so then when I probe a little bit deeper, I ask, like, what pieces are you doing? Like, have you surrendered to the space of, okay, you got to learn some stuff, right? Like, have you surrendered to learning the arts? Like, have you surrendered to learning how to paint wet on wet watercolor? You surrendered to learning the block crayons and surrendered to learning how to model. Because it's not just about learning it. When somebody goes to become a Waldorf teacher, they go through all of those things in school. They learn those things, and they're expected to know those things as they're teaching their children. Even though, schools generally will have a teacher that does the painting or things like that, the teachers are expected to know those things and to hone those skills. So when you're on this path, it is absolutely okay for you to outsource some of those things. Absolutely. I'm not saying that it's not okay. But I would say that in order to really feel it and serve the child in front of you, that you want to be conscious that you are really diving in. The reason that I say that is because, often the curriculum is written for the generic child. And we try to write ours with enough space in it for you to really then look at what's in front of you. But I know that that's not the reality with other curriculum providers. Some of them even write out the summary for you to write each day. And that's really not what we want. We don't want that. So that's one reason why I don't provide the summary, because that's the skill that you're teaching your child. So you don't want everything to be paint by number. If you're seeking that, that's why things feel hollow. You want to be able to look at the child in front of you and say, what does this child need? And then listen. And then look at the curriculum indications and go from there. That's how you keep it from looking hollow and feeling hollow. The space of education without a relationship, that's not education. There is no education if there's no relationship. You have to have the relationship part in there. So really understanding your child is like supremely important. A Waldorf teacher in a school would be expected to get to know and to pray and meditate for each child in their classroom. And I know that doesn't always happen. I know that there are, situations and struggles and it does not always happen. But that's the expectation. That was Steiner's expectation in the beginning. And Steiner was the first Waldorf homeschooler. If you look back at what he did before he started the school, these things that he brought those teachers came from another place. It didn't come from him teaching in a public school. They came from his work in the home. So I just suggest to you that you sort of step back, and if you are struggling with feeling the beauty and enormity of this, if you are still like dancing between like, oh, should I do this? Maybe I should pull in some Charlotte Mason, or maybe I should, because it doesn't feel like it's enough and you're continually adding to it, that will not help that feeling of it being hollow. The only thing that will help that feeling of it being hollow is for you to take on all of that, to take it on. And I'm not asking you to take it on all at once, because goodness, it's a lot, right? But what you do take on, do it fully. Do it fully. Your child will know otherwise. So if you have a child that's not connecting with the content or not connecting with the concept of Waldorf at all, for one, remember you're in charge. Like, you came to this because you felt like it was something your child needed. So then it's your job. Like, you have the stewardship. We're in this space where, especially now, with the way things are going in 2020, where all of a sudden parents are responsible for things that they weren't responsible for 6 months ago. And maybe you were responsible for them, but you didn't take on that stewardship. You had somebody else do it. But here you are. here you are now. And you have to sort of decide, okay, I'm diving in. I'm doing this, because the beauty of Waldorf is only realized when you actually do the work. It's just like anything else. I know that stings, because I know I'm going to get some hate mail after this one. But I have to tell you, it's like with anything. You can't expect to become an amazing painter or artist if you're not going to put in the work. You can't expect to, if you have a struggling marriage and you don't go to therapy, you can't expect to sort of just have it fix itself on its own, right? Like without some help. You can't expect to learn how to ride a bike without practice. You can't expect to learn how to ski without getting on some skis and actually doing the work, right? You can't just watch people skiing and go, oh yeah, now I know how to do it. This is the same. So you have to hone your craft. You have to decide, like, and there might be a dozen things that you don't think you're good at. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Pick one and start there. Pick one. It might be storytelling. You might be, that one's a lot. I get that one a lot, especially from first grade parents who are like, oh my gosh, these stories are so long. How am I going to memorize them all? Don't memorize them. Take them in. Like, I ask you, if I said to you, tell me the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you could tell it to me. Most of you could tell it to me, because it was part of your childhood, because you heard it over and over again, and then you retold it and you told it to somebody else, and you might have read a book about it, or, pick something, but it became common to you. It didn't become common to you because you read it once. It became common to you because you went through it time and time and time again. That's how you have to look at this. You have to look at this as, okay, this is a journey. And teachers study for this. And then they have continuing education. And I am taking on this mantle. And if you're not doing it because you want to, you probably got to step back, take a deep breath, maybe consider putting your child in Seasons of 7 or something, because if you're not doing this because you want to, it will show. So if you're struggling with it feeling hollow, you have to step back and say, okay, wait a minute. Where's my commitment level? Where is, where is my ability to show up? How am I preparing for these lessons? Did I do the work? Did I sit down and go through and decide what this main lesson block was about and how I was going to bring it? Because, I study for hours before I bring one lesson. I know that sounds crazy, right? But I want to just help you understand that if your child was in a Waldorf school, your teacher probably studied for hours too, just to bring those lessons together. And yeah, it's great when it's like, this is the fifth time that I've taught grade 3. So yeah, I have some grade 3 knowledge under my belt, so it became a little bit easier. But here's the thing. I'm still in charge of that. I still have to take the time to prepare those lessons. So I would say that if you're struggling with it feeling like you're not making the connection, step back and look at the bigger picture. Look at the whole down to the parts. If the whole is like, hey, I'm not feeling connected to my child, then where do you need to go with that? So often we might, it's going to sting. We might think that we've prepared enough, but we really haven't. And then we get in there and things aren't connecting. Then we get mad at our child because they're not like doing their part. But we really didn't do our part. So our part means you have to know that lesson inside and out. You have to be prepared. You have to know what you're doing. And really you have to show up. I never teach a lesson if I'm in a bad mood. I'd rather go to the park. Rather not even teach it. It's one of the reasons why we take every 10th day off. So that way, with taking every 10th day off, I can catch up if I need to. I can not feel like I'm burning out, which is, it's the reality. So if you're really struggling with being able to count the days until you take the next time off, ask yourself, are you getting enough breaks? Because the breaks are super important. But really, this is about your journey with the education. And it's not just about your child's journey. It's about your journey. And, I've had parents say to me, this is not what I signed up for. I go, well, actually it is. It is. There's a reason why you're drawn to this. So it's about asking yourself, what was that reason? And then taking it on. It's not easy, but nothing in life worth having is easy. Think about the last accomplishment that you could pat yourself on the back for. It was only an accomplishment because you had to work at it. Otherwise, it's not an accomplishment. Stuff that comes easy, it's not an accomplishment. You're like, woohoo, mark the box. I did that today. I did the dishes. I folded the laundry. I adulted today. It's not the same. It's not the same. To really take on the stewardship of teaching your children, you have to be ready to do it. You have to know that it's going to have ups and downs, and you're going to be frustrated, and that you're going to have to take on some study. And I get it. You might have 15 other things that are screaming at you really loud to do as well. So it's okay to sort of part out some of those things. But the pieces you bring, you better bring them fully, or it will feel hollow. Teach the child in front of you. Take a deep breath. Remember that there's no education without connection. You've got to connect with the child. You've got to connect with yourself. And you have to remember that if what you've purchased for curriculum is like complete instructions all the way down to every last detail, that is not going to help you. Like, step out of that feeling of it being hollow. You have to sort of step back and say, okay, my child's not generic. Who's in front of me? What can I do to really teach that child's soul? Hope this was helpful. Hope you have a wonderful day.